All right, thank y'all for coming today to my presentation of the Capstone project I've done. It's on integration of drones into the U.S. airspace system and issues and solutions of what can be done to make that an easier process. I'd like to thank Christian, my mentor in front of me, and my wife Amy for helping me throughout this process. So I'd like to start the presentation with one short video. It's about 15 seconds. Alright, next slide please. So that was a video, as you guys noticed, on what could happen if a drone actually hit an aircraft. Now that video was made using computer systems, so that didn't actually happen, but it was made to show that drones can cause significant damage to an aircraft. And as you can see in the video, took off a nice chunk of the wing, caused issues. There are current regulations for drone pilots made by the FAA right now. All drones have to be registered by the FAA every 3 years, and there is a cost of $5 for those 3 years. Also, starting this year in June, it was announced that pilots who want to fly commercially and make money while flying their drones have to either get a license, which can be done by either a course online if you're already a licensed FAA pilot. If you are not, then you have to take a written test and also do a biannual every year with a flight instructor to stay current. Next slide, please. But there are some current problems with the regulations, such as the drone companies who sell the drones are not required by law to tell anyone about the regulations of the FAA. And that could be a serious problem for people who are flying as a hobby. For example, the max height that the FAA allows a drone to be flown at is 400 feet, but many of these drones can fly well above 400 feet. So that can cause which can cause issues with them coming close to aircraft and crashing and losing sight of the drone and it falling and hurting someone. And also, one of the issues is that you only have to be 13 years old to register a drone, but the FAA has fines of up to $250,000 if you don't register a drone, and there's been nothing to say on who that falls onto, so it'd be kind of hard to give a 13-year-old a fine for that much money if they never knew about it. And there's also no requirement that someone actually flies a drone to get the license. So they never have to fly a drone. They can literally take their written test and then buy a drone, go out and fly it for money without ever having any practice or anything. Next slide, please. So some of the main issues with drones and the airspace system are drones being flown near airports, mainly along the final and departure parts of where the airplane takes off, pretty much when they're lined up at the runway. There's been lots of near misses. There's actually been crashes. Drones have hit aircraft before. And also, people are losing control of their drones. They've been able to have them fly away. They've fallen. They've hit people. They've caused serious damage to cars, vehicles. And they're also been used to film restricted things, such as police operations, military operations. People get their drone and they fly it over and have cameras on them and can see things that might be sensitive that doesn't need to be seen. Next slide, please. So there are some solutions to fix some of the drone issues. The first thing that needs to be done is to classify drones, I believe, into two categories. The two categories one should be a toy drone, which is what you can be used as a hobby, and then commercial drones, which can be used for professional purposes. So commercial drones would be the drones that can fly over 400 feet, able to have high-resolution cameras, and able to carry cargo. Where toy drones would be anything that is used for recreation, like I said, and they should be limited to doing only 200 feet above the ground and not able to carry cargo or produce any high-quality photos or videos for commercial purposes. Next slide. And the FAA also needs to make sure that all companies who produce drones actually let the purchaser know or put something in the box to let them know that they do have laws that they have to follow and that they have to register their drone before flying it. And commercial drones must also have a transponder, which will also give air traffic control info to let them know that there is a drone who could cause an issue, and also a parachute for additional safety. Another thing that many drones are starting to have is GPS automatically in them. So that should be something that's really important, especially for commercial drones, because that can prevent the drone from flying away, or if the pilot loses control, they can literally press a button, the drone will fly itself with autopilot and land safely.
Plus, if it has GPS, it will know not to go in specific airspace.
Right. And then also, which I think is really important to prevent issues and problems, is that the FAA actually require pilots who want to fly commercially have so many hours of actual training, flying the type of drone they want to fly, so that they already know and understand the characteristics of that drone before they take it out and try to fly it somewhere. Next slide, please. So I want to talk about the transponder I brought up. This is something that's important. And in my research, I found out that there are lots of companies who agree with this, and they're actually selling these transponders. So I have a picture of a small one there that's actually made for a drone, and it weighs probably maybe a couple ounces. And that can go in the drone, and that can actually, the pilot can see it, and it also gives air traffic control information to see the speed, the direction, the altitude, and the type of drone that's flying. So if commercial drones have this, this can prevent a lot of near crashes. And it's also cost effective. This transponder costs less than $500. So if someone's doing this commercially, that's a really small investment for safety and also to prevent any sort of fines.
And ADS-B, because we're getting ready to come up on ADS-B compliance, so it'll be and that'll include in the $500.
Yeah, the ADS-B for the drones are $500.
Oh,
and that
Okay. What is ADS-B?
ADS-B, so a transponder is every aircraft has it for the most part, the airlines, and what it does is it sends out a radio information, and in that information it lets air traffic control on radar see the speed of the aircraft, the direction of flight, the altitude, and it's able to so ATC can see all that information. So it gives it some extra safety. So that's how they're able to see where the aircraft are. So with this in there, it lets them know there is a drone in the area. And it'll actually send out the thing saying this is a drone. So
and how will drones appear on radar?
The same way a regular aircraft would. It would still show up as a blimp.
This sends a signal.
Yeah.
And actually it will also send a signal because all other aircraft are going to have to be compliant with ADS-B. So if you're sending out a signal, I can see the signal and air traffic controls can see the signal.
Yeah. Any other questions on this?
No.
All right, next slide, please. So, here I have another video, and I want you to watch this video. This is another safety video of what, this is actually something that did happen, and it's an FAA video.
Okay. Thank you.
See you later.
Have a good one. Thank you.
So in that video, we saw that a very small, common drone caused very significant damage to a vehicle. It probably totaled that vehicle, to be honest, with the amount of damage. And that drone probably weighs less than 10 pounds and caused that much damage. So next slide, please. So you can see that since majority of drones are 5 to 55 pounds, if that thing's falling from 100 feet plus 400 feet, that can cause even death if it falls on someone. So one of the things that I propose that a commercial operator do is that they're guaranteed, or they're required, I should say, to put a parachute on their drone. And this would prevent the drone from falling from those heights if the pilot loses control, if the battery dies. And once again, this is a very cost-effective parachute. They're costing $250, some are even less than that online for the drone. They're very small. and a lot of them have an automatic sensor on them. So if it feels that it's starting to fall at a certain rate, the parachute would come out. And the positive of this is, one, it prevents damage to people, property, and also the drone itself. They can reuse this drone. If it crashed before, the drone will be broke, someone will be hurt, possible property damage, as you saw in that video before that.
And if it's going to be required for commercial drones to use it, why is it not being required for hobby drones?
The reason I say hobby drones shouldn't have them, and it could be something that they buy, but the reason I focus on the commercial is that these commercial drones are usually the larger ones, and they're also going to be used, usually a lot of them are being used for surveying, also for pictures at events and at higher altitude. So if we restrict the personal drones to 200 feet, and those are something that going to be flown hopefully at a park or your house, it's less of a chance of it actually hurting someone. Where we've seen at sporting events in the last year, multiple drones have fallen on the players, the crowd, even a referee got injured because they lost control. The video I showed you before. There's just more of a chance that the commercial drones might be in an area where it could actually hurt someone or
high risk
property. Yeah. Next slide, if there's one other question. So the idea that I came up with, and ironically, it's very, very similar to what Amazon came up with. And as you might have heard, Amazon is really trying to push this drone delivery product and making drones something that can be used. So the idea, as we mentioned before, is that there's a 200-foot limit for personal drones. So those would be for if you just want to go have fun, play with them 200 feet. From 0 to 400 feet can be used for drones that are going to be used for delivering products, taking pictures, anything commercial. And they can also be flown at higher rates of speed. Nothing above that for drones, because once you get above that, now you're into aircraft flying, possible incidents with airplanes, helicopters, buildings. And so that would be the best solution to allowing them to fly safely and avoid any injuries. And of course, with this, I believe they will be able to fly near an airport, but of course they would have to talk to ATC if they're going to be within a certain radius, and also if they're going to affect any actual corridor traffic as in taking off, landing, anything like that.
So then is there going to be some mechanical way to cap out hobby drones at 2,000 or 200 feet?
Yeah, so the idea would be that, like an RC car, you can only go so far before it stops driving with your remote. So if it's a hobby style drone, the transponder coming from the remote would only be able to emit a signal up to 200 feet. So the drone wouldn't be able to fly above 200 feet. And then if you buy one that would be classified as a commercial drone, they're able to go up to 400 feet, and that's where it would cap out. And if they do have drones, which there are drones that can go above 400 feet, if they do want to do that, it would be something they would have to work out with air traffic control and get the proper authorization if they do want to fly above that for any certain reason.
So, but I just want to. So, what's the difference between a drone and a UA?
Okay, so the FAA has no. There's no difference according to the FAA. They are one and the same. So when I say drone, UAV is kind of interchangeable according to the FAA. So this could be something like a quadcopter, which is very common. It could be something like an RC plane, but is used for pictures, which a lot of these are being used also for things like pipeline patrol, and police stations are using them for stuff. So according to the FAA, there is no difference. So they all fall under the same regulations at this time.
Then what's the difference between something like this and Phantom, one of the military UAVs? I can't even think of the name right now, but because that's using actual airspace,
right?
So what would be the difference?
So the big difference here is that one's military and one's civilian. I didn't go into the military because they were totally different. They fall under totally different rules, laws.
Okay. I understand.
Yeah. So
we don't have to get into it.
Yeah. So this mainly is covering civilian side of it. The military has special authorization to do pretty much anything they would like to do.
Okay.
With drones, and they also have drones that are a lot more sophisticated than what we can buy in the store.
Are they flying at different altitudes or any altitude
They are able to fly upwards of 50,000 feet.
And can they fly anywhere that they want?
Who?
Drones.
As long as they're on a flight plan within the NASA.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're fine.
All right.
So how can one preserve their personal privacy if drones are allowed to fly everywhere?
And that is a good question. And the best way to do that is if there is a drone or someone has a drone near you, the FAA has required people register them. So you can either try to see what the registration number is or follow them back and let someone know you don't want them to fly their drone. If there's a commercial drone around, then there should be someone near there that you can go talk to if it is an actual operation for some reason. And then it should let you know. But the FAA has a rule that drones are not allowed to go to someone's house to film them or fly around property that's not theirs. Just kind of similar to the same laws they have for regular aircraft. They have to be at a certain altitude. They can't fly over populated areas. Any other questions on that?
Okay.
All right, next slide, please. So another thing that could be created to help integrate drones also is to create airways or kind of like a roadmap in the sky. And helicopters have these because we know helicopters fly usually very low. So on the helicopter airway maps, you can see buildings, obstructions, roads, stuff that in normal aviation maps you can't see. So the idea is that you can make areas which are safer for drones, especially if they're going to be delivering a cargo. And these maps will have road layouts, buildings, elevations of these buildings that help drone pilots navigate safer through areas, especially if they're not familiar with it 100%. They can look at this map beforehand and come up with a flight plan. Any questions on this? No, next slide, please. So, why this is important to integrate these drones into our airspace is start off, they're very cost effective, they are cheap to operate, they are cheap to buy, and they are also safer to operate than normal aircraft. The other reason is that they can do many things that airplanes can do, but like I said before, you can do cheaper. So pipeline patrols, delivering packages, doing surveys, and providing support for military and police operations can be done with drones in a safe way. They also reduce risk factors in aviation. So, if one of these crash, the pilot's not going to die. There's not going to be lots of people. The cargo will probably be able to be used again. And it also, the pilots probably won't be in as much as a rush. And fatigue is something that can be reduced since, if you have multiple drone pilots, they can easily come in, take control, fly the drone if the other person is unable to do it.
Well, actually, if you have a GPS route, it won't even require.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next slide. And the conclusion of this whole thing is pretty much to sum it up. There are regulations. There could be things done to make them better, easier. One thing I like to point out is the FAA has not determined what a drone flight instructor is, even though they've used the term, and that is something that the FAA needs to clarify to people of who they need to go talk to get their biannual reviews to be a drone pilot. And also that these are things that can be required commercially to make them safer, like the transponder, the parachute, and that drones are the future is what it comes down to. And they're going to be used and are going to continue to be used. And in the future, as technology advances, we're probably going to start to really do see drones delivering our packages to our house, taking pictures, being used for police operations, ticketing people. There's, so many things that a drone can do. And right now, we're just starting to see what they can do. And I think in the future, we're going to see a lot more of them. So, is there any other questions?
No.
Do you have a drone?
I do have a drone. And as part of this project, I did get my drone pilot's license through the FAA. I took the course. And I'll also be attending a safety seminar coming up this week to learn more about the drones and the FAA.
And I'd like to be, I'm curious more about the drone instructors. That's one of the things.
So are they going to have classes like driver's ed to be a drone pilot, or are they just going to give anybody a drone license?
Actually, there are companies, and anytime there's a new thing, people are going to capitalize. There are companies who are already having classes every week to come in, and they would teach you everything you need to know so that you can take the test and come get your drone pilot's license.
I mean, it makes sense if you're going to make somebody have a certificate, you might as well teach them how to use it and use it responsibly. Good.
Well, I'd like to thank you again for your support and coming out and listening to it and being my mentor through the last 16 weeks while I worked on this, and your expertise in aviation as a pilot and a safety person. And I'd like to thank my wife for supporting me through my years of studying and getting my degree. And that concludes my presentation for my capstone project.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you.